Good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of Beyond the Ordinary Show. And this is a conversation that's been long in coming, is that right? Yeah, for the show.
Mhm.
Um, I've openly spoken about my plant medicine journeys, the different ways that it's been an ally for my awakening and empowerment, really. I think the awakening was there, but a depth of empowerment that was facilitated through working with this technology and this intelligence and this love, this compassion that is gifted to us, maybe from the cosmos, from the galactics, but definitely from Mama Gaia,
Mm.
without a doubt. And I'm really excited to introduce to you someone who is devoted to that path and the way that she shares from it. And if you ever have experienced medicine in that way, perhaps you know what I'm talking about. I would assume that you do. If you haven't, I'd ask that you keep an open mind and stay on the call because you're going to receive a gift of a song
Mm.
from the plants, from La Madre Planta, as we call her sometimes, Mamacita. So many different names for this transmission of love that has been mysteriously and magically been made available to us, and whose time for her coming out in a way to reach the masses, I believe, and I'm witnessing is truly here. So it's gonna be a very special call. I'm excited for all of those of you who are joining us. And with that, I want to introduce you to Celeste Palmer. And with that introduction, Celeste, I could read your bio, but I prefer if you can tell us you're passionate about this, what you're doing, how you're
Mhm.
guiding people, and how that's helping people to transform their lives.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. Thank you for having me. And I'm so excited to be here with your community and just share a little bit about what I have come to cultivate and gain and learn through my devotion and my studies on the path of Amazonian curanderismo. So my journey with specifically with ayahuasca, I would consider her one of my primary plant teachers, amongst some other master plant teachers of the Amazonian region. Brought me or called me and came to me at a really pivotal point on my path of life. I was at a big transition, and I didn't really know why I was being called to the medicine, but a deep prayer that was in my heart was, why am I here? I was feeling really lacking purpose, and I wanted to live a life of purpose. And so I sat in my first ceremonies, and it completely changed my life in a very literal way. And I was invited from there to Peru to study in the traditional way of Amazonian curanderismo in a practice known as la dieta, where one enters into isolation to learn directly from the spirit of the plants, to plant the seed within the garden of the body, and to then, when having reached a specific degree of purity within one's energetic bodies, and if one chooses to facilitate this medicine. And so today, the way in which I work with ayahuasca specifically, and some other Amazonian plant medicines as well, is to assist humanity in the sacred purge, really is to facilitate a cellular and cellular purification, melting away and dissolving anything that really is that isn't the truth, or the core essence isn't in alignment with the core essence of a person. And so this is a lot of dissolving and releasing different programs such as not enough, fear, and limiting beliefs. and assisting people in shifting their lifestyle to align themselves with their core essence. Yeah. And so, yeah, and then optimize their life as well. So it really depends on where people are in their path when they come to me and what type of work we might facilitate. But a lot of it is purification, and then creating spaciousness within, and assisting somebody in aligning with their core essence and the truth of who they are.
I love how you articulated that and what becomes possible. And I want to get a little bit into the conversation because this is so important, y'all. You don't have to go down into the Amazon. You don't have to sit
Mm-hmm.
and drink medicine. As a matter of fact, the traditions were that the shaman would take the medicine and he would see for you what was in you and what needed to be purged, and he would help you to purge that density, the darkness, the shadow, the limiting beliefs, whatever it was that was diminishing the light that's available within you.
Mm-hmm.
And the sacred ally of the plants provide their light. It's their light language, their light song through these songs called the ICARO.
Mm-hmm.
And someone like Celeste, who's been training, has been seeped in, who's experienced and has had relationship with La Dieta, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, she can carry the transmission of the codes through these icaros, these songs that are a translation of the plants that are there to heal us, to put us back into the natural rhythm
Mm-hmm.
with earth, to put us into the expansion of natural order. And in that, our fears, our doubts get diminished because we're aware that we're all part of a greater whole that supports in a symbiotic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Truthfulness of the value of who we really are. And there's such reverence
Yeah.
for each and every one of us in that space. So it's so important. You don't have to sit in ceremony necessarily. You can drink, but that's not the way it always has to work. And there's really different possibilities to, again, to be in relationship with these type of technologies and really benefit from what's
Mm-hmm.
available.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you talk about the nature of the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us more about that. I want to hear from your perspective. It's so important.
Yeah. It's important to talk about, as you said, because a lot of people, yeah, I think working with ayahuasca, as you know, it's a commitment. And when we commit to working with ayahuasca, it goes well beyond the ceremony itself. And so I think providing a bit of context and education to prepare somebody to step into a right relationship with this medicine with an open heart and deep trust, because it can be a really difficult journey. And absolutely, the ceremony itself is, it can be difficult, and the ceremony continues. After the ceremony continues. And so I like to talk about the nature of the medicine, and we can really just look at the location of where the plant grows, which is native to the equator. Equal parts of day and night, equal parts of light and dark. And that says a lot about the plant. It also, if anybody has ever been to the Amazon, be it Peru or otherwise, you know that it's extreme conditions. It's really intense, and the people in the Amazon, they are strong, they're resilient, and that's really what it requires to go through this journey of integration, which ayahuasca is a tool for integration. So a lot of people talk about integration after sitting in ceremony. I like to talk about ayahuasca as a tool for integrating the fragmented pieces of the self, remembering oneself to come into unity, to come into wholeness within. And so once again, ayahuasca grows native to the equator. And So when we set an intention with ayahuasca, such as I want to experience greater degrees of joy, or I want to heal my depression, these are really common intentions and reasons why somebody might sit in ceremony, because ayahuasca is an antidepressant, and it works with us physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And so in order for us to experience greater degrees of joy, we are going to come to learn everything within us that prevents us from experiencing joy, everything within us that is in opposition to joy. So this is like the shadow work, right? This is the equal parts darkness. This is the equal parts of night. And ayahuasca can also show us our highest timeline potential. Once again, our purpose, why we're here, what we came here to do to assist us in aligning with or stepping back on our path, our true path towards our north, if you will. And so we will also, if we want to align ourselves with that and fully embody our true selves, then we will come to learn through working with ayahuasca anything and everything, thought patterns, belief systems, emotions, traumatic experiences, etc., that are preventing us from fully embodying our purpose. And so it's both light and dark, it's magical and mystical and beautiful, and it can also be really challenging. And so it's equal parts of light and dark. And I think I'll pause there and see where it goes from here.
No, I think it's wonderful. And it is equal parts light and dark. But you come to have a relationship with both where it comes into balance.
Mm-hmm.
The fear of the darkness and trying to escape it, and the trying to be at war with it,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't want to experience that place. There is a flow into a serenity where it's possible to look at that darkness without the agitation. It's possible to be
Mm-hmm.
what's flowing through and be aware and actually bring light into the shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And by bringing light to it, there's a gravitational pull of the shadow into the light. It becomes illuminated. It can't help but to do that. And it stops being less of a struggle and more of a mechanical alignment that we become aware of, depending on how the experiences that we have working in these traditions. And again, what's beautiful about these traditions for me is that you can be with someone who is holding the capacity and the codes for it, and those transmissions that are available. It doesn't work as quickly necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also a very scientific acknowledgement of what happens when we're in relationship of what ayahuasca stimulates in our neural pathways and in our brains and in our memories to help repattern
Mm-hmm.
traumatic events, to help repattern limiting beliefs, and to bring it to a place where we're breaking through a glass ceiling
Mm-hmm.
of where we felt that we were stuck before.
Yeah, absolutely. It expands our consciousness, you know, we're carried into an alternative state of consciousness. And so ayahuasca expands our consciousness so that we can see, for example, a traumatic experience that imprinted us in a significant way, and perhaps we're still attached to it. In whatever way we're attached to it, it shows up and repeats itself in our life because it's unresolved. And so ayahuasca can, through the expansion of our consciousness, change our, you know, we gather more information, we can see more clearly, we can see from a higher perspective, and from seeing and gaining more insights and teachings from the situation, we can come into a greater state of forgiveness or whatever needs to take place there. in order for us to essentially release the emotion and expand in our consciousness, expand our consciousness.
So beautiful. There was the first time I traveled to Peru, was the first time I was ever to experience sitting with ayahuasca. I didn't know what I was heading into. All I knew that I was supposed to be an initiation, and I didn't know what that was going to look like. I thought I was going to be buried in the Amazon basin somewhere with a straw in my mouth and up there for 3 days. I didn't know, and it led me to plant medicine, and it was life-changing again. And it was very familiar to me, the realms that I got taken into, because I'd been sitting for 12 years, 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Deep meditation, having experiences, connecting to beings for other realms, going through purging of darkness and acceptance and awareness of the balance that was taking place. So when I landed there, it was familiar in a way, but so expansionary because something released in a way. And I left, I went there, and 15 days later, I was not the same person.
Yeah.
Something shifted. I landed back in Hawaii, and it's like, wow, you look different. Something shifted. Yeah, it's undeniable. What I didn't understand when I was sitting with an amazing Shipibo tribe, we were in ceremony and they were singing these songs, and I didn't know what language it was. I understood that they were icaros, but I didn't really understand what icaros really were. I didn't understand the complexity of what it took to sing those songs, the training that it required, and the assimilation. And I didn't understand, again, the technology that the plants through these people that they were being sung through were transmitting for my healing and for all of our healing. And I'd love if you speak a little bit more about just again, the technology of that. And I'm still in awe of it. There's nothing else to say of it, but it is beyond and of this world, but I'm in awe and in reverence to where it comes through.
Yeah, thank you. Icaro is a word for sacred medicine song, and it is the sound technology. As you highlighted, it's a technology. It's the sound frequency that transmits the medicine of the plant, the physical plant, through sound frequency. And so the way in which one would attain or receive an icaro is through the sacred practice known as la dieta, where a dietero or a person in devotion to the plants will, into this path, one might step into diet with the intention of healing, and then another reason one might step into diet is with the intention to learn, and they're both happening simultaneously. However, when we step into diet, we are living in isolation. Ideally, this is the more traditional way, and it's a really strict practice, and practicing a series of disciplines. And so eating a really simple diet, such as boiled plantains, and white rice, sometimes a specific white river fish. And so these are sustaining foods, but they're really neutral foods. So there's not a lot of life force energy in them. And the dietero is not reading or engaging with anybody. There's no physical touch. There's no eye contact. There's no conversation. There's no consumption of really anything other than the medicine of the plant in which the person is stepping into a mentorship with. And so it's a process of emptying yourself and then filling yourself back up with the energy and the consciousness of the plant. And in that practice, one will receive, potentially, it's not really a guarantee, but one may receive a song or a melody known as an icaro, a sacred hymn, if you will, which once again transmits the medicine of the plant that one has dieted with through its sound technology. And the plant will begin to teach the person how to sing its medicine. And what's really fascinating as well about these, and then, that as a person further evolves on their path of curanderismo and then attunes their energetic body to the energy of La Selva, which is essentially nature's pharmacy. And sacred medicine lives all over the world. So it's not just isolated to the Amazon. However, as we know, the majority of our Earth's medicine does originate from the Amazon. And so through this practice, when one further purifies their energetic bodies, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, and then stepping into this practice, it's like the dietero, the curandero, the shaman, their body is the pharmacy. And so through the practice, they've planted the seed of these plants in their body, and the plant begins to cultivate within the person. And so a diet that took place 10 years ago or 5 years ago is going to grow the same way a plant grows if the person tends their garden and takes care of the plant within them. And so the plant will continue to teach a person. So the icaros that I've received years ago, they continue to evolve. And when I sing the icaro, I sing to the plant, and the plant will begin to awaken or activate within. And it's a channeling, but it's almost like, instead of like a channeling from above, it's like a channeling from within. And the plant begins to express itself through the person who has a relationship with it.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Again, y'all are going to have an opportunity to experience an Icaro on the show a little bit later. So you're going to want to hang out for that, because it's so divine. It just, it really is. And there's particular plants that have particular properties. So I've worked with Mukurna, there's Bobansana, there's Ajo, there's so many different plants, and you work with one particular plant to really receive the transmission of its essence and its healing property.
Yeah.
So it's really it's a commitment and a long-term practice. What plants have you worked with, and what's the transmission that's offered through those?
Yeah. The first plants I worked with was chuchuwashi. It's a tree. And on a physical level, it is a womb tonic or a reproductive tonic. So for both men and women, it's known for its ability to tone, balance, and harmonize the reproductive organs in both men and women, increase libido. It's anti-inflammatory. It supports the immune system, as well as una de gato, which is a vine. And these two plants, as I mentioned, they were the first plants that I dieted with. And this was 5 years ago, and they're really starting to speak to me now. And I would say that chuchuwashi is also the bringer of joy. It's such a sweet and gentle, yet powerful and grounding tree. So it's going to be great, especially for anyone who's wanting to conceive, anybody who has had womb issues, anybody who has a hard time connecting to joy and creativity, things like that. And we could go on. Una de gato. Una de gato is great specifically for cancer and cellular regeneration, cellular health. It's also anti-inflammatory. It cleans the blood. It cleans the blood of viruses. They've done a lot of studies on una de gato, specifically with cancer of the blood, leukemia, which is interesting because it's directly connected to my story. And it's just so fascinating to kind of get to a certain point on the path and look back, and just with the divine guidance of my higher self, the divine guidance of my purpose, the divine guidance of these plants, how certain plant allies have come into my life to prepare me to heal people and children and family who are going through what I went through as a child. And so I've also worked with Chirik Sanango, which is a really strong plant, and it's a beautiful bush which grows purple and white flowers, and they change every day. This plant is really excellent. It's great for like breaking fevers, things like that. It chills the body, and it also is great for dissolving fear, specifically fear. I've come to learn, and what's also auspicious is my landlords just planted 2 Chiricsanango plants in our backyard 2 days ago. Yeah, I've also dieted with Arekia, which is a sequoia, a redwood of the Amazon. Through my experience, I found that this particular tree, and you know, when it makes sense. Now it makes sense, right? But trees are really they're like the antennas of the earth. And in this diet, Reiki really took me back down and in within myself. And so it was a real process of ascension, down and in, to then expand up and out, and later connect with the stars, essentially, the cosmos. Yeah, and then Chuja Chaki Kaspi, which is another tree specific for learning shamanism. Sapawaska, which is another vine, and it's specific to it's like a glue, so it's great for cuts. And in the past, or like with surgeries and things like that, curanderos might work with sapawaska to repair wounds, things like that, or after perhaps a physical surgery, to repair wounds to the skin, to seal it up instead of using like stitches. It acts like a glue. Yeah.
Amazing. You obviously know what you're talking about, and you've been again in the devotion of being with the plants and becoming a transmitter of their medicine. And being in a ceremony drinking ayahuasca is one experience.
Yeah.
What would the experience be like here for people who are going to experience an ICARO, or if they want to go deeper and do more work with you and or working online? What's the consciousness that you bring in? And I know the special offer includes I'll call it a soul song, a plant song. We're going to see if it. I received mine, y'all. It was profound. And again, I've been in a lot of ceremonies, comparatively speaking to most people. And I was so impressed with Celeste's capacity of transmission and what I was feeling in the wave on how the plants in that particular ICARO.
Thank you. All right, it looks like you froze on my end. I'm not sure.
Oh,
okay, there you are. You're back.
So again, the question is, what do people receive through a Zoom transmission with you? What do you see shifting? What's awakening? What's the relationship that they get to have with either Aya or with the particular plant that's being transmitted?
Yeah, I typically bring through all the plants in which I've dieted with, and so I call upon their consciousness before the session or the transmission takes place. And then when stepping into the transmission itself, I really listen, and to whichever plant would like to come forth to support the person who is there to receive on an energetic level. And as we know, it's multidimensional, and so it's not just energetic, but oftentimes through the sound transmission, people will experience, so I typically like to pair it with breath work to assist somebody in going into a deeper state, or a different state, an alternative state of consciousness, which helps to open the energetic bodies, open the heart, and open the consciousness, while surrendering the conscious mind. So surrendering the conscious mind, surrendering the ego, and entering into a deep state of of, some might call it trance, some might call it relaxation, some might call it an expanded state, but we're working with the breath versus a substance. And so it's very much controlled, and the person can kind of go as deep as they'd like to, and they're really the captain of their ship. And then I bring through the icaros, to really, the icaros, I kind of see it like a serpent that's just like weaving its way into a person's energetic body. And so the sound goes where the sound is needed. The icaros don't always sound beautiful, you know, sometimes the icaros sound a little bit disturbing and disruptive, and that's because we need to break up energy first before, and to create spaciousness, to assist in sort of tenderizing dense energies, stuck energies, softening stuck dense energies, assisting those energies to move out of one's field. And then once that takes place, typically I notice the icaros, or the sounds, starting to shift. I'm also watching a person, and so I can see, or like checking in, you know, I go into my own state of connection and channeling and trance. But I'm also conscious and watching. But the a little bit of discomfort, it's a good thing. It means that we're moving energy. And then after we move through those states of discomfort, those states of release, then the energetic body sort of lands and spreads out and softens and relaxes. And so somebody might experience a deep release of emotion. That's often the case. They might experience a change of body temperature, which also suggests that they're moving energy. It's a really good thing. They might experience tingling sensations. Often when I bring through the Chiricsanongo Icaro, that assists in dissolving fear, also cooling down the body. What's interesting about the release of fear, it also translates to the body temperature dropping. And so somebody's body temperature might get cooler, it might get warmer. It really just depends on what they're working through. And then also just an expanded state of consciousness. So people might have a remembrance. People might recall past experiences. People might recall past lifetimes. People might have guidance and clarity of confusion, upcoming decisions, which path to move forward with, and receive downloads as far as how to move forward with their life. So really, it lots of things take place. The intention that somebody brings in is really important. And then also kind of trusting, surrendering, and letting go our expectations. And because sometimes things need to take place, sometimes things need to release before our, you know, sometimes there's like a step or two or three, some things that need to happen in order for our intention to be met, to attune and align our energetic fields to receive the intention that we initially came in with.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I think I love how just expertly you describe all of this.
Thank you.
My personal experiences in plant medicine, and my experience with Celeste also, there's also attunement into higher octaves of consciousness, of song and resonance that become available. So you can go through a whole wave of clearing something, and then in the next wave, something coming in, and you're like with God, you're with divinity, you're in like in such absolute presence of love that there's, you don't know what to do except just to be with it, and you don't want to. It's just so profound. And trauma responses, old like frozen trauma responses, I've had those experiences where things were so traumatic in my life, and I knew in ceremony that something was releasing. When I got so cold, like, oh, this is a trauma response. I knew enough. Like, oh, that's a frozen response. That's like, and something shifting through. So instead of getting worried or anxious, just knowing that it's just a natural progression of something who's potentially come up to transcend into a different vibrational tone, a different memory, a different action taking ability, as soul recovery takes place a lot of times during these type of ceremonies.
Yeah. Yeah, and that reminds me, it kind of takes us back to the nature of the medicine, your first question, and the first topic of exploration, the nature of the medicine. Ayahuasca illuminates the shadow. And so there was a question about having a hard time accessing memories. That's a trauma response. That's our unconscious mind taking, like, suppressing a specific experience or a period of time because it was too much for us. Our nervous system wasn't prepared to experience that for whatever way, for whatever reason. It's not always capital T trauma sometimes, but as a little person, we're a little bit more vulnerable, we're a little more tender. And so something that might seem really insignificant to an adult, to a young one, it's extremely significant, and it imprints us in a way. And so this is also one of the workings of ayahuasca, if you will, is she can unlock and she can assist in our remembrance and illumination and bringing what was once in the shadow to greater awareness, to our consciousness, so that we can do something with it. And I say do something with it because it might be releasing it, it might be resolving it, it might be integrating it. It doesn't always have to leave in order for us to heal it. It doesn't always have to. There's once again, it's multi-layered and multifaceted. But through the illumination of it, or the reactivation of it, we can do something with it. Mm-hmm. And that might take place in the ceremony itself. That might take place in the integration process, which sometimes, oftentimes, and this is something that not a lot of people are aware of, we sit in ceremony and we feel, there's so much spaciousness that's been created, and then the afterglow low, something takes place, and we kind of we start experiencing discomfort and challenge in life. And that's not a bad thing. This is nothing to fear. What a lot of people do go into is fear, and they let go of their faith and their trust, and they forget their intention. But once again, this is the medicine at work. This is the medicine bringing up something that has been so deep within the shadows of our psyche that needs healing, that needs tending, that needs integration. And so I often talk about the disintegration before the integration. This is the sacred purge. This is the falling apart, the unwinding, the unbinding, the letting go, and to create spaciousness so that we can integrate ourselves, so that we can come into wholeness and acceptance and love within.
Beautiful, Celeste. Oh, there's so many places that I want to go with you right now. There's a few things that are really important that I feel that we have to cover. First, y'all, Celeste is going to gift us an experience of an ICARO later on the call. You're going to want to experience that. It's part of the special offer because there's going to be a song for you as well. And mine was profound. And I cannot recommend it enough. We'll get into the special offer in a little bit. 2 points that I want to make about the medicine and the icaros, the plants working through us. And all the times I've sat through it, every time I sit, I become more and more aware of just how absolutely divinely intelligent it is, going into my system, going into nooks and crannies that I couldn't even believe existed, going into places where my shadow is hiding the shadow of the shadow of the shadow, and dusting off a corner is like, wow, that's like, I can't believe that's even there. And I'm in awe that it could even find that part of me. Like in ceremony, I'm experiencing the experience of that part of me being illuminated that somehow it rather would not have seen, or is protecting itself. Or doing its best as can just to show up for me in the best way that it could. And And the medicine, as we call her, she just goes in. It's like, no, here you are, and I'm bringing light to you, and you get to come up. You don't have to work so hard. You don't have to fight anymore. The war is over. Let me bring
Yeah.
my bosom and bring the light with me, which is
Yeah.
it's those are conversations I've had with her profoundly, and it's just I'm in awe every time
Yeah.
that happens.
Yeah.
It's I mean, I can't even it's I can't you can't really even speak into it. It's like you really have to
Yeah.
experience it, but
She's awe-invoking, absolutely. It's just it's literally otherworldly,
it
and
really
yet it
is.
is of this world.
And something that is supremely important to get to those spaces is that y'all, if in any experience, I brought Celeste on here because I trust what she's transmitting through. I feel it, and I hope you do also. I wouldn't be remiss in just bringing on anybody to talk about this
Thank you.
because the person who's serving, the setting,
Hmm.
and the space are some of the most important things
Yeah.
that you wouldn't go have surgery in the middle of a desolate place that is full of trash that you're going to get infected in. And energetically and emotionally, you wouldn't want to put yourself in that situation. Even the person serving, if
Mhm.
they're not clear and strong, the person singing the Icaro to you, if they've got things that they are perhaps not as attuned to with, you can become exposed to that. So let's talk
Yeah.
about the importance of those components.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, one of the reasons why the dieta is so important. And so this is a great question to ask anyone you are considering sitting with who is serving the medicine and holding the space. Have they done the dieting process? How many years do they have? Because once again, it's the life of the plant, right? So the diet continues to expand and to grow and to teach somebody, but it also helps to purify. Once again, it's a process of emptying and then filling somebody up. So it's a process of purification. And so somebody who has undergone training such as La Dieta, they're attuning their energy. They are the jungle, right? They are bringing the jungle, they are bringing the medicine to wherever they are serving, be it in the jungle or be it outside of the jungle. And ceremonies take place all over the world now. So that's not it, that doesn't really matter where it's being facilitated, because the shaman, the curandero, will bring the pharmacy to wherever they're channeling the jungle, having the body be the jungle, essentially. And so, and then also, like what degree of purification has that person undergone, because they are channeling, and ayahuasca really opens us up. And so if a shaman is, like not walking their talk, which, a lot of
It happened.
shamans are not, yeah. And, be them native or indigenous or non, I've seen plenty of and heard of many experience where indigenous medicine sharers are not working in an integral way. They are highly involved in drama. They are living in great conflict with themselves as well as conflict with others. And so all of that is really entering into the ceremonial space. And energetically, when we are operating at a denser frequency, so for example, carrying a lot of fear, carrying a lot of anger, carrying a lot of guilt, carrying a lot of shame, you name it, those are infiltration points for lower vibrational energies and or entities to enter a ceremonial space. And so the person making the medicine, what energy is going into the medicine and which is being served, that's also something to really be to really consider and to really to take into account. It's a very big component. It's the medicine in which we're drinking. So who's making the medicine, what plants are going into the medicine, and then who's holding the space, and are they in alignment? Are they really embodied? Are they embodied? Are they being? There's a lot of doing, and there's not a lot of being, unfortunately. And so both of those are really important. And then also somebody who knows how to manipulate energy and clear energy, because we are purging in ceremony. And so where is that energy going? And so somebody who can really manage the space and clean the space and assist in shifting the energy of the space to guide a journey within one or many people, to assist them from going from how and where they entered the ceremony to where they want to go. And so there's a lot that goes into it. I don't know if I answered your question. I just went on a little bit of a rant there.
No,
Is there?
you have it's perfect. Again, space setting, the importance
Mm-hmm.
of who's in
Yeah.
your string, and being conscientious. And again, my points, I could have brought in on 1,000 people to speak about ayahuasca easily onto the show.
Mm-hmm.
But the integrity of the person who's singing the icaro to, who's
Yeah.
serving, who's holding space for you, their capacity to navigate and dance with all of the energies that could potentially come up, from the most divine of lights to the darkness, gnarliest of
Yeah.
energies, and being able to master a dance
Yeah.
that you can tango with such elegance that allows the healing to truly take place, not being shut out in either direction and not knowing how to get back to ourselves.
Yeah, totally. And somebody who really knows thyself, right? And can enter into the darkness, because there is darkness in there in those
Absolutely.
spaces, and it can be really terrifying, like sometimes as a shaman, as a curandero, you meet some really dense energies, and sometimes could be quite frightening energies. And so, and then also to assist in giving that energy a path back to the light. And yet it's choice,
Yeah.
right? It's choice. So there's an invitation that takes place, and there's also an energetic holding that takes place. And two, for somebody who maybe that's not coming up in a ceremony, perhaps what's coming up in a ceremony is just really guiding somebody deeper and deeper into themselves, deeper and deeper into the depth of their spirit, into their depth of their psyche, the depth of their heart. And so I can only guide somebody as far as I've gone myself. And the job of the shaman is to be able to guide somebody there, and to guide them back,
Yeah.
as to not get lost in this space,
Mm.
which people get lost in.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes
Yeah.
to come back, and maybe not fully. There's always like this part that's like lingering and not sure. So the responsibility and the awareness and the capacity to hold, and not
Yeah.
judgments, but really there's an integrity uh,
Yeah.
that is powerful. It's the integrity of the plants. It's in the integrity of the dieta that you did,
Mm.
the intelligence and technology that's moving through you. And we can talk about the science and the neural pathway formation and how it's
Yeah.
similar to affirmations in different ways and all these things. It's like we can get into all of that, and maybe that's for another show. But y'all, I want y'all to experience the ICARO that we're having on that Celeste is
Mm.
with us in a little bit. I want to take some Q&A also, because there's some great questions and people with their hands raised that have questions. And we have to get into a special offer, y'all, for you to experience an ICARO with Celeste, the Divine Vine, a quantum plant frequency transmission with Celeste. I'm excited to be able to offer this to you. If you've never done medicine before and personally and drank it, it it's it's amazing. Again, I don't have words for just how beautiful the experience and what can become available through the relationship of the frequency transmission, the codes,
Mm-hmm.
really the love that is being offered through this. So all of y'all on the call, listening to the replay, look at the chat box. There is a link that you'll find in the chat box, so you can open up the special offer page. Underneath the video where you're watching, there should be a special offer button. No worries if it's not there. Again, the link's in the chat box, and you can always open up another browser by going to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/marketplace. And you'll find Celeste's picture on there and also the special offer button that'll take you to that same page. And Celeste, I'm going to share my screen here, and I would love it if you guide everybody through what they're going to receive by participating in your special offer.
Yes. Would you like me to go into the icaro or further?
Oh, let's go into the special offer, and again,
okay.
With one-on-one session with you.
Yeah. So I am super excited. We talked a little bit about this earlier. It's an incredible way to connect with the consciousness of these plant medicines without actually ingesting the medicine itself. And so once again, we'll be working with breath to assist in the melting outside of time and space and into the everything and the nothing, opening our hearts, opening our consciousness so that the frequency via sound, via icaro, can enter into you. So this is a 60-minute private plant frequency session. And yeah, so I'll invite you to join me with your intention. And so we'll talk briefly at the start of the session, and then we'll go into about 45 minutes of breath and icaro, and then I'll guide you out. And depending on time, we might also connect at the end of the call to just explore maybe whatever came up for you in that way. And so, yeah, it's really beautiful. Once again, the songs that I'm channeling, that I'm offering you, they are coming from master plant teachers of the Amazon. They'll be working with you physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to help you regulate your nervous system, melting away fear programs. That's a big one. Chirik Sananga has been coming through really strong lately. He's absolutely present with us, and he's here to assist us in the melting away of fear, that which is preventing us from experiencing greater degrees of love and connection. And then also just opening up pathways and channels within ourselves to connect with ourselves, to connect with the divine.
Yeah, this is a fantastic experience. Again, you've never had to experience plant medicine before. It'll be, I just recommend it. I'm not even going to tell you what it's going to be. What Celeste wrote on there and more is available, and the connection to that part of yourself, to that transmission. Again, when we come to know our harmony that we were not familiar with, it becomes part of our harmony forever. It just does. A door gets open that is available to us all the time. If you never knew that note existed, there it is, and it's forever something that you can use in the repertoire of the song that you're creating for yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's just beautiful. Again, what becomes available. All right, we're going to get into the icaro that Celeste is going to transmit for us for a little bit, but I want to take some Q&A first. Tara says she's excited to work with you. Tara's experienced some work with the plants before, so I'm excited for
Awesome.
going with you. So other people are saying that they're diving in as well.
It's a great introduction. It's a great preparation practice, and it's a great integration practice as well, or reconnection practice. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, it's okay. MJ's asking, how do you get the ceremony with trying ayahuasca? I'm not quite sure what she's asking. Are you? Maybe you can answer that.
I'm not totally sure what you're asking either. How do you get the ceremony trying ayahuasca? Without. Yeah. So once again, and John spoke beautifully about this earlier. So the way in which we work with ayahuasca today is much different than the way that we used to work with ayahuasca, where the shaman, the medicine person, would drink the medicine and the patient would not drink the medicine. And so through the shaman drinking the medicine, which the medicine's kind of like, it's allows us to have quantum interpretation by expanding our senses as well, so we can see more information, things like that. And so you don't necessarily need to drink ayahuasca in order to receive her medicine. And through the icaro, once again, the sound frequency is how you might experience the consciousness of ayahuasca without having to ingest the physical medicine itself. It's a much gentler experience, I will say that. And it's a great way to begin to bridge a relationship and connection with the plant when you are preparing yourself to sit in ceremony and go deeper. Some people don't need to, some people don't, they might not benefit from drinking the medicine. And so that would be how you would experience a ceremony. It would be a little bit different. However, you would still be receiving and benefiting from the consciousness of ayahuasca to a degree. I hope that explains.
It explains it beautifully. I'm gonna take a couple of video callers here as well. And I also want to note that once you experience the icaro or the vine in you, it continues to grow in you. It
Absolutely
becomes part of you.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And she'll call, or the plant will call every once in a while, as an ally, as really calling you forward and
Yeah.
being again in connection with anywhere where we are in separation of the divine. And so again, as an ally, as a facilitator, as a benevolent master here to guide us back home, it's so profound. And again, she works in subtle ways and in huge ways, and it always does it perfectly for however we show up. So it's quite profound.
Yeah, and we do have to take care, you know, just like we take care of our house plants or we water our garden. So once we've sat in ceremony, the life of the plant is determined by how we care for the plant. And it starts with ourselves. How do we care for ourselves? Our body is the garden. And so, yeah, we could talk a lot about that as well.
We could talk a lot about that. I think that's another call, which I'm sure we'll need. Let's go to live caller. Angela, let's get you to unmute, and welcome to the call.
Hi, thank you so much. Pleasure to be here. I'm glad I caught you guys. I was curious. I sat with Aya earlier in the year, and it was in a big group, and a really big group. And I was very hesitant, like, I don't think I should be doing this. But it was a trusted person and her brother who did it, and he sang what he called medicine songs during it, and they were very provoking and uncomfortable, and I loved it. And I went into some deep shadows in my experience, and I was just curious. You know, you have to trust yourself, and what is your intention when you're moving through this? But in a big group setting like that, where there isn't a lot of talking, obviously you're on your own. What are the effects of, in a big group container like that, of that oozing? I'll just call it oozing, energetic oozing.
Good question.
Waving in with your experience. And is there like a recommended group size that's ideal?
This is a multi-layered question. I would say that the size of the group, I mean, a larger size is a lot of energy, right? And so for somebody to manage, be it the shaman and the facilitators, to manage the space and the energy would require a lot of training and mastery in that way. And so a large group, it's not a good or a bad thing. I prefer, you know, like medium to smaller sized groups, just because a larger group, like you mentioned, it's a lot of energy. And so there can be an exchange of energy, or there can be an absorption of energy if the space is not cleared properly. The icaros are icaros and tobacco. So tobacco is often present in a ceremony. If it's not present, then I would suggest that that is not the ceremony for you. But
Like hoppe?
Hape, yes, typically the shaman would be blowing fumar, the smoke of tobacco, to cleanse, clear, and protect. And so the smoke sort of assists in carrying the energy up and out, and then protecting the energetic bodies of the individuals. And so there can be, there can be, I'm not saying that it always takes place. Once again, it just depends on the facilitators and the shaman and how well they clear the space and assist the energy that's being purged to be swept and cleansed from the space, so it doesn't necessarily go into somebody else's energetic field. So that's one thing that I would say around like the size of the group. And then also too, how many shamans, how many facilitators, things like that. So a larger group, typically there's going to be 2 or more shamans, and then a few facilitators to assist in the process.
Yeah.
Or guardians in the process as well. But also we have to take into account is how porous are we? Are we dealing with trauma? Are we super empathically sensitive and don't know what to do with that? Are we surrounding ourselves also with other people who maybe, if people are going in with a drug addiction, alcoholism, rape trauma, and things like that, that's going to be one crowd. And if there's a lot of that in a particular group, then that's going to leak out in one way or another. It just is. It's a lot of dense energy that's trying to purge through. If you're showing up with people who've been doing a lot of spiritual work and really have been going through limiting beliefs and dark nights of the soul and really integrating, that's another type of space. So again, there's so many facets from my awareness of how that space is held, what the intention of the space is, who's being invited in the container. And I love it when guardians show up and facilitators in different ways as well, because they help the curanderos to hold the space more stable so that the curanderos can focus on being in the energies that are shifting through and being with the songs, whether it's medicine songs, which if people are trained in medicine songs, they really know how to articulate how they're playing their instruments and singing those songs. And again, the plant medicine through the icaros and the relationship with the light from the plants, that's a whole nother experience that's just profound.
Yeah.
Can I ask just one more quick thing?
Of course, yeah.
After I did that, after I sat with her, I came home, and it was probably over like a 6-hour span. And I was trying to go to bed, and it was like this little thing was over here going, hey, psst, psst, you need to pay attention to me. I'm like, you know what? No, I'm just not ready for that. I know you want my attention, but I can't do it. But I felt that within me, over the span of the next 3 or 4 months here, so that plant living within you and what you're speaking to and with the song, I would imagine in your session that it does like resprout it kind of and
Totally.
a bit more.
Yeah. You can think of it as like the snake charmer, right? Like the song sort of charm the snake and wake it up and activate it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, awesome. It sounds like Angela might be giving a session. Yes, I would.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Angela, thank you for your question.
You're welcome. Thank you, Angela. Great questions.
Blessings to you. Now, Janice is asking, so you're only using one plant for this personal session, or will other plants you work with also come through if they're needed by that person? I think we've answered that, but if you clarify that, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah. I'll bring in all my plant teachers. So there will be multiple plant consciousness working with us.
Okay. Yo, the link for the special offer is in the chat box again, and the link in the replay. If you're watching on YouTube also, which we're posting, it's in the comment section. So there's lots of different places to find it, just to make it easy for you guys.
Thanks, John.
Let's go to Linda now. Linda, welcome to the call.
Can you hear me this time?
We can.
I can hear you.
Hey, finally, it's the first time. I've been using my phone now instead of the iPad, and it's a lot
Great.
easier. So I'm sorry, John. I know you've put up with a lot with me, so thank
Oh,
you
please,
so
you
much
have to
for
apologize for
continuing to call
anything.
me. I appreciate it.
What's your question
My,
for Celeste?
my question is, I know several people who've gone through the ceremony, and each time it's taken like 2 weeks. And I know that if you're only going to use the essence of the plant, it shouldn't take that long. But how do you clear all the shadow work ahead of time so that it doesn't interfere with the plant itself, the plant essence that you're, working with?
Yeah, so we're not working with the essence of a plant. Well, I guess in the transmission we're working with the sound frequency of the plant, but we are working with the physical medicine of the plant. So it's a little bit deeper and more profound than simply the essence. The essence would be a softer and more gentle experience. Ayahuasca is the master teacher of shadow. She is the mother teacher of shadow. So if you want to do shadow work, ayahuasca is the plant for you. You can absolutely, so you can't necessarily clear all the shadow work. Really, I don't know that for some of us that might take place in a lifetime, but we're going to be doing, one layer gone, another layer revealed. And oftentimes along the path, we cultivate more gifts and skills and tools and resources in order for us to move through the shadow with more ease and grace, and perhaps at a more accelerated pace, to where it doesn't take us 2 weeks or 2 years, but it takes us maybe 2 minutes or 2 days or something like that. So it's not necessary to clear all the shadow before coming to an ayahuasca ceremony. That's why we're coming to an ayahuasca ceremony, is to allow ayahuasca she's our ally, she's our friend, she's here to support us in integrating the shadow, getting to know the shadow, befriending the shadow, loving the shadow, things like that, bringing the shadow home. And so just trust yourself. There's definitely things that you can do in order to greater prepare yourself. Part of that is letting go of the things that don't align, really purifying yourself as best as you can, which is also a process, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. That might look like cleaning up your diet. That might look like letting go of toxic relationships. That might look like changing some of the habits and behaviors in which we do. Maybe we stop going to the bar as much, things like that, just like a simple example. And a common example, so ayahuasca, once again, she assists us in the sacred purge. And so anything that is of toxicity, and humanity is probably in its most toxic state that it's ever been in the history of humanity. So she's here to walk us home, to assist us in purifying ourselves, to come into alignment and resonance once again with divine purity, with the divine. So doing your best, following whatever practices if you're choosing to go sit in ceremony, things like that, following whatever protocol they're recommending. If they're not recommending a 2-week protocol, then that is also probably a sign that it's a leaky container, perhaps. And then just trusting your process. And so just remembering that it is a process and it doesn't take place overnight. Like when I work with people, I let them know, okay, this is a process, and it's well beyond the 1 to 2 week series of ceremonies that you're doing. And it's going to require our active participation. And when we actively show up, when we meet her hand in hand, she's our mother and grandmother, she's also our sister and our friend. And so when we show up in active participation with this medicine, and when we walk with her and we walk beside her, then she's going to support us. That's a reciprocal relationship. And we will benefit from her so much more when we tend to when we care for ourselves. If we don't know where to start here.
Right. Thank you.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it was
It's a little bit indirect.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Linda. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Lynn. It was great to see you.
Me too.
Again, there's so much that we can get into, and I want to get into the ICARO in just a minute. But before we do that, for anybody who's participating in the special offer, I think it's really important to cover this to see if it's a requirement, a suggestion, or not necessary at all, from your standpoint. And for anybody who's considering a plant ceremony, there's a purification process, and it's the other dieta. It's the dieta in preparation from ceremony. Do you recommend some type of dieta before someone goes into the ICARO transmission with you as well, to help to be in receptivity to the transmission that's happening? And also talk a little bit about the dieta that takes place just prior to. We don't have to get into a long explanation,
Okay.
but just a basic of it, of what we're tuning into before we go into, as we nourish our bodies, and I'd say in preparation for the ceremony, but really just in acknowledgement of how we want to show up for life, truly.
Totally. Yeah. I'm glad that you brought this up, because it is important. It's not as strict as if you were going to sit in ceremony and physically drink the medicine. However, showing up energetically light is a great idea. So once again, we're going to be doing some breath work. And so I recommend coming on an empty stomach, if possible. So at least 2 to 3 hours without food, without eating, and then also considering eating a light meal. So a meal with a lot of life force energy. A salad, for example, a juice, a smoothie, once again, something with a lot of vitality in it. And this transitions into the next question, and it's very applicable. So fried food, meat, things like that, specifically pigs, pork, and red meat. Once again, everything we participate in is programmed, and these animals, even when they are raised in really beautiful environments, because there are some cows and pigs and things like that are raised in really beautiful environments. And yet, as we know, we are all one. And so same with these, like the pigs and the beef, they are a collective as well as we are a collective of humanity. And so the animal, the emotions in which the animal carries, we are essentially ingesting that. And so leading up to ceremony, we want to do, once again, to the best of our ability, to really reframe or refrain from and disengage from consuming fear, be it through animals or be it through media, be it through watching movies, like fearful, scary movies, things like that. We're bringing all of that into ceremony with us. This one person, I had an experience, she was reading, she was having a dark experience. And then the next day I saw her, she was reading, or I've seen people who were having darker experiences, and then they were reading like horror books, scary books and things like that. And so, it's our consciousness too. What are we reading? What are we listening to? Music, rock and roll, things like that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love rock and roll. I used to like rock and roll a lot more. And I recognize, and sometimes I still listen to a rock and roll song, things like that, but it is too programming our consciousness. And so if you want to bring that into ceremony with you, then that's your choice. I'm not here to teach you, the medicine will teach you. Mm-hmm. But energetically, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, we want to come into the ceremony light, as light as possible, so that ayahuasca can go to the deeper layers within, and she doesn't have to clear away that surface level stuff that we're receiving. And that's, once again, kind of like clouding our consciousness because of the books and the media and the conversations that we're having, when we can do that work ourselves so that she can go deeper. And
so, as a reiteration for the special offer and people showing up for the ICAROS, coming in light, the intent of it, being in a space to be as receptive energetically, psychically, will serve the session so much more.
Yeah. And she'll show up nicer that way too. Because she
Yeah.
won't have to, she won't have to like go in there and like chase things out. So
The purge doesn't have to be so heavy
exactly.
when you're showing up in alignment, right?
Yeah, it tends to be a little easier to purge when we are energetically lighter. And that's not to say we're not going to have a difficult purge, but it's really going to be that stuff that we haven't been able to shake ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah, amazing. Okay, so let's get into the ICARO. And Tara's actually asking, I think this is important. What about after the session? How long is integration?
Yeah, so I would say 10 to 15 minutes after the session. And so we'll keep the beginning a little bit quicker so we can have more time. So we'll connect about your intention and we'll reserve more space after the transmission to connect and share about your experience and perhaps get some greater insight to what took place for you if there's questions.
Wonderful. So as we get into the ICARO, I think I'm gonna mute myself, y'all, and I'm gonna say goodbye to Celeste now because I want you to sit in integration, in the flow, and then receptivity of what is these waves that are like filling in those cracks, that are just seeping into those places that are ready to receive and thirsty for what's being made available. So with that, I want to remind y'all, if anything, click on the link for the special offer and keep a tab open so you can get to it later unless you're going to buy right now. The link again is in the chat box and go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/marketplace. You'll find Celeste's picture and the special offer link on there as well. And the replay will be up a few hours after the call ends tonight. So come back and listen, integrate more, come back and relearn and re-remember what was shared here, because it's such a divine tool gifted to us from love. If I go to the root of it, it's gifted to us from love. And how blessed are we to be able to be open to receive it and have that opportunity. So as you get into the ICARO and the transmission, Celeste, I want to tell you thank you for being here. Thank you for your devotion and your service that you are to all of us, because with one person that you serve, 1,000 people or more get altered. I'm innately aware of that. So again, thank you for your transmission. And I'll look forward to having you on another call on BTO, because we need to go deeper into these conversations. And with that, y'all enjoy your transmission. I look forward to seeing you on the next call. And I'm going to close my eyes, shut down my video, and enjoy this with you.
Thank you so much, John. It's been a pleasure, and I'm really grateful for the invitation to join you in conversation with your community. So thank you. Yeah, and I agree with you, Kathy. Okay, so I'm gonna change my sound so that you guys can hear hopefully hear some of the subtle layers. And so today we'll be receiving from Chirik Sanango. And so I invite you to close your eyes and drop back down and into your heart space, allowing yourself to relax deeper into the surface which holds you, and allowing your breath to flow gently through you, assisting you in melting, assisting you in softening into this now moment, arriving in this now moment, allowing your breath to flow in and out, like the waves on the coast, as you open your heart to receive. Beginning to bring awareness back into your physical body. So once again, just noticing the sensations in your body, Noticing the surface in which holds you. Noticing what's coming up for you. And without judgment, without even labeling it, just simply being with it, holding it in immaculate observation, divine neutrality, allowing that part of you to be witnessed, to be seen, heard, sensed, and felt. Taking a deep breath in through your nose, and a long audible exhale, allowing yourself to soften, relax, let go. And then whenever you're ready, coming back into this now moment, coming back into this space, opening your eyes, if and when you're ready. Just a little taste. Thank you. Yeah, release can look like many things. The purge can look and feel like many things. It might look like crying. It might look like burping, coughing, sneezing, yawning, shaking. So it can look like many things. Hiccuping, laughing. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
I said I was coming back, but I had to.
I'm glad you did.
Wow. Wow. I still want to share my experience, but I want you to experience your own rather than going into mine. Enjoy this gift, this wave that's been made available. Ask for it to come and dream during your daytime. Ask it to inform you the next time you take a bite of something. Drink a glass of water. Imprint your love into the love being gifted to you. Celeste, that was amazing.
Thank you so much, John. I deeply appreciate you, and yeah, thank you so
You
much.
too. Thank all of y'all for showing up, for being here, for
Yeah.
sharing your song, your transmission as well. You're a gift. I look forward to seeing y'all soon.
Yeah, big blessings.
Bye, everybody.
Ciao.